welcome. I'm Jessie Walters from Charles Rutenberg. I'm here today with Cheryl Herny from Nightberry Title Solutions. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, no problem. And we were going to talk about the contract changes, which some people don't know about, and some realtors don't know about, which is kind of scary. But in November of last year, 2021, they revised a bunch of stuff in the Florida contract or Florida realtor contracts.
The Florida FAR bar.
Yes, and so we're like machines. We're always used to. This is here, this is here. And like for you, I thought about it because the closing date's usually page 1. Now it's page 2. That's got to be
like
so.
Throws everything off.
Yeah.
I know it's in here.
Yeah. So a lot of people, a lot of realtors, a lot of buyers, a lot of sellers don't really know what they're signing. And then when you add changes to it, they've kind of got it down, and then it gets a little confusing and stuff. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to put some stuff up so you guys can see it too. So this publication is from November 1st. So you guys should all know this already, but a lot of people don't. So let's go over some of it. What do you think is the worst part about the whole contract change?
I don't know that there is a bad.
So what's the best part?
When it comes to title,
Yes.
it has to be where in the whole earnest money dispute. That's really, that seems to be common. I believe we had 4 in the last month within our Florida offices that are always like, what do we do with this?
Okay, so in the state's whole, because Nightberry is throughout Florida.
Yeah,
so that's not
offices.
just Trinity. Okay, good.
No.
Yeah, because I was going to say,
not
what's
just,
going on
not
in Trinity?
No, my office had none.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so, and then what is an escrow dispute? So you go under contract with someone and you think they're working out, then all of a sudden they take a turn for the worse.
Yes.
You want your deposit back, and now you have an escrow dispute. Yeah, and so basically what that's going to entail is where you are in your contract, whether you're going to get that deposit back.
That's a lot of, you just got to do your due diligence, really,
Right.
through the whole contract as realtors.
Right. So like if you're in the home inspection period, don't worry. You can get your deposit back. Mm-hmm. If you're buying it cash, though, there may not be.
But within that home inspection period, though, is it standard 10 days or depends on what you write as an agent?
Yeah, it depends on what you write as an agent. Yeah, and my standardly I do write 7 days, but but if you don't fill it in, 10? It's 10 if you don't fill it in, So I usually put 7 just because I want to beat everybody else out on their contracts when they're putting it in with so they're like, well, this agent's going to do the home inspection even sooner. So I usually put a call into my home inspector ahead of time, and I say, hey, you have anything open for next week? And he says, yeah, I fit you in, and then it works out,
Yeah.
So, but if you don't have that call, don't put 7 days if you're not 100% sure. If you're an agent watching this, you want to make sure you have enough days to get their home inspection period in. Mm-hmm. So, 10 gives the agent and a client enough time.
Right.
And that home inspection is going to be out of your buyer's pocket. So a lot of people get confused with that too, because they think like, well, the bank is going to have, I had one just the other day, the bank's going to have their inspection, their home inspection. I said, no, the bank, especially conventional mortgage.
Right.
They're going to walk in the house, is it worth it? And if there's something like, the ceiling's falling down, they're going to note that.
Right.
But otherwise, they're not going to be doing a home inspection. They're not going to be going underneath of the sinks and checking for leaks and checking your appliances and
your electrical
and going on the roof, checking your exactly the panels, stuff like the electrical panels and
if you actually some real lenders will have the importance of a home inspection.
Yeah.
Did you do your home inspection? Because we don't warranty it, so I'm hoping that you did your due diligence and did that home inspection.
Right. For your protection, get a home inspection.
Right.
I made up a song. I'm just kidding.
Protection.
Inspection. Break it down now. I'm just kidding.
You're bust a move.
Yeah. But yeah, it is for your protection. So you figure like out of pocket, that home inspection, you figure, average is like between $400 and $500.
Yeah.
And then you have your appraisal next. So now you figure $400 or $500. So you're out of, before any of this goes through, you're out $1,000. Plus you've got that escrow. And that's what this actual contract, when we were talking about it, it's going to reference escrow. So now is your escrow, you're already out $1,000, you're purchasing this home, and now is this escrow protected too? And and it's a 50-50 pretty much as we were going through here.
Right.
So when we were looking at paragraph 1D on this, we can throw it up there too, but it basically talks about personal property. This is kind of cool because, we had was a bunch of people just ripping down all
I think that's very cool with today's technology.
Yeah. So the television wall mounts, they were just taking all they take that, they literally take the wires behind the walls. And so
now there's a hole.
Yeah. So now there's a hole and there's no wires. They took everything out and there's like a huge hole. Like we're talking, we can see drywall, we can see the drywall openings and we can see like wood studs. And they'll say, well, I took my wall mount down. And then the buyer's like, there's a huge hole in the wall. And so, and then if you have a good realtor, usually it'll help you out with the handyman to get that repaired or something like that. But so that was saying, they actually put that back up just one more time. So you're going to have your thermostats is going to be considered attached, your doorbells.
Your doorbells. A lot of people
the
now
ring doorbells.
The ring doorbells.
Yeah.
So now you take your doorbell off, you have nothing.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And you got television wall mounts we just talked about and television mounting. So sometimes if you have a older TV, I mean, they're not really that expensive now. You can leave that up too. Security gate and other access devices, mailbox keys, because some people just say, well, I can't find them. It's like, well, they have to go buy another one, you know?
Because
it's like it
costs the buyer.
Yeah, storm shutters, storm protective. So some people will sell those at garage sales. I'm like, no, you've got to leave those. You literally have the hardware for all the hurricane around all the windows. You know what I mean? You got to leave those. But so if you have someone who doesn't. Like, for instance, says, you know what, I want my Ring doorbell. As an agent, you need to write that in because there's another block that says excluded.
Right, that gives you exclusions, right.
Yeah, so if they say, well, you know what, I want my television mounting thing, you need to
specify.
Yeah, and you need to start out with that in the first day in that contract to say, well, we have a Ring doorbell and we have video cameras that are attached. Those are going to be excluded, and write those on there instead of the opposite because otherwise they're included.
Well, because you don't think about it because it's not in your home per se.
Right.
You're like, okay, I got everything. I got this. I got that. And you're like, oh, I Ring doorbell.
Yeah. So, where I just had it because we just had changed this was, and he won't care if we talk about him, but Anthony Russo, we just closed on his house. And he was with the older lady, and she was very, very nice. But she didn't even know what a Ring doorbell was. So he was like, do you think she'll be upset? Well, I had wrote it on the contract just in case to exclude the Ring doorbell because that way if there would not be a dispute. So if you wanted to take it, because it was one of those, we're running through this contract. So if you want to leave it, you can. They'll be happy. But if you don't want to leave it, you're covered to take it. So he took it, and then we were having.
So do you replace it with something else, or you just leave the hole there for?
I don't know what he did, but yeah. But we
put the old one back.
Don't ask so many questions. Go to the next thing. I'm just kidding. No, I don't know what he did, but she was very happy. But she lost the keys to the front of the house, and I was like, oh gosh. So, and we had so many keys. I don't know if you remember that.
Well,
we had so many keys. You're like, don't talk about that. So anyway, so the paragraph 4, we got the closing date, and that's what I was talking about. The machines, we had that on the front page of the contract. And now,
right at the bottom. We know exactly where to look.
And now the title company and the lenders, and we all have to go to the second page. So to us, to you guys, it's no big deal, but to us, we were like machines. This has been like this for so many years. We see the closing date. So on this, it's saying money is to be collected by the closing agent for the closing to occur, not the seller. So I wonder.
Well, I'm thinking because a lot of buyers may think, well, who do I pay? Do I give the seller the money?
Oh, maybe
no.
Maybe
don't
that's
do
why they're
that.
clarifying.
You got to send it to the title company, and then we'll pay the seller.
Yeah. So I had a buy owner. So I had a friend who wanted to go with a buy owner, and she said her house has been for sale for so long, and she said she has to give me. I have to give her money, and you're right, because I said no, you guys are going to get a title company, and they're going to be like a mediator for you guys. You're going to go give them the money, and they're going to hold it for you because you don't want her to go buy, I don't know, a couple Louis Vuittons or, you know what I mean, with your
and then the house doesn't sell, but your seller now has all the money, and
good luck
the
trying to
seller
get that
has
back.
spent it.
Yeah, and I also said, especially if you're doing it on a handshake, so I say, oh, Cheryl, I'm going to buy your house. And you go, yeah, that's fine. You can buy it for $500,000. And I go, okay. I go, here's 5,000. And you go,
just a cardboard box.
yeah. And I go, what's the legal? Because I know, no, I'm just kidding. So I go, okay, so it's $500,000. And I go, here's your deposit. We shake on it. Now I give you a deposit of $5,000 and you go shopping and you have a great Christmas. You come back, your nails are all done and you're driving like a nice car and
my makeup,
yeah,
all going on.
Yeah, big makeover and all this stuff. Although you look great all the time, but anyway.
Okay. Well, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. But anyway, so you spend that $5,000 and then I go, hey, I'm still buying your house. Right? What are we doing? And you go, what are you talking about? You just paid me that money back that you owed me, or that you gave me a personal loan. Or I decided not to sell and I'll get your money back to you, or whatever the excuse is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't hand that, even if it's, I know it sounds bad, but even if it's family at some point, you're not going to hand, you want someone who's going to do the title, make sure that title is clear, make sure that house doesn't have any liens on it, such as mortgages, just pretty much.
Going back to the home inspection, you want to make sure the home is worth the $500,000 that you're offering.
Make sure your taxes are paid. Make sure the water bills are paid, and that's where the title company is going to go and make sure that when you're purchasing this home, that it's clear and free and clear of all encumbrances. So, so don't give the money right to the seller, and then on the paragraph 5, extension of closing date. So your loan approval is obtained. And then they'll give this is just saying that they're going to give another 7 days automatically. Is that what it's saying?
Well, in the event that the closing funds aren't available due to because the CFPB has to, you're supposed to give the buyer those 3 days.
Right.
And then you close on the 4th day, I believe it's what it is.
Yeah.
So if that time frame is not there before the closing date, then it's automatically extended for not to exceed
the
7 days. It used to be 10, now it's 7.
Okay, yeah. So they'll say the CD. So basically, when I call my customers, I'll say, "Hey, did you get something from your lender?" And they say, "Yeah, we're reviewing it." And I'm like, "Well, we're trying to. If it's Tuesday, we're trying to close Friday." And I'm like, hey, that's got to be signed 3 days prior. So if you're just signing it now, or if you don't sign it till tomorrow because you want to, analyze it, which you've already seen this literally probably like 10 times by the time you get to the CD, because when you get approved, you see what the CD says. Then you see it again, then they send it to you. You have to electronically sign. It's got to be to that lender 3 days prior to this closing.
Right.
If you're still reviewing it and it's Wednesday and you're trying to close Friday, probably not going to happen.
Right. And again, that extension on there does say that it has to be completed in underwriting and you actually have the approval. You have to have those things in place.
Right.
You can't just say, oh, we're going to extend, it's automatic 7-day extension. No, it's not an automatic 7-day.
Yeah, you better have your paperwork.
You have to have that approval and
some type of proof.
Appraisal and, pretty much everything done.
Right.
It's just not enough time for those 3 days for the lender.
Right. And then we'll get to the appraisal part too, because that's I think the worst, the only, not worst part about it, but because sometimes the bank will say, we haven't ordered the appraisals are in back order because of COVID. And
right. Those appraisals are taking long.
Yeah.
They really are.
It used to be 3 to 5 days. Now it can be a week to 10 days,
Right.
So,
and then when the appraisal's done, it doesn't automatically mean, oh, the appraisal's done, we're finished.
Yeah.
No, now it has to go to the lender and to the underwriting process. That's another 5 days.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So on paragraph 6B, as we're going through like pages, these are like paragraphs in a contract, so it does go on forever, but this part is one of the parts that has changed too on the leasing. New language specifies basically seasonal rentals, short-term vacation rentals will be disclosed if they will occur after closing. So if you're selling a property and you've got some type of lease in place, you're going to have to still honor it. And I think people get confused about that too, because they'll say, well, the tenants are going to move out. Well, no, how long is the tenant's lease?
Right.
Oh, they have 6 more months. Well, then you have 6 more months
right.
too.
Seller has to honor that.
Yeah, unless they're month to month, and then you can give them a 30-day, to move out in 30 days. But sometimes that you might have if you have tenants in there, you might have like a squatter situation too, because just because you gave them the notice to get out doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be able to find somewhere,
Right.
And it might turn into an eviction, type of thing.
Right.
So
I
that's
guess the key word is just disclose, disclose,
Yeah.
disclose.
Yes. Yes. And then disclose some more. And then assignability. Oh my gosh. I don't even know if I have enough time to talk about assignability. So there's these classes that people go to, and they learn how to make money without even having 1 cent, in your bank account. You can do this. And this is paragraph 7 is where the little loophole is for these people that actually, they'll come to your house and they'll say, well, your house is worth $210, but we'll give you $200,000 cash and we're going to close in 2 weeks. And then when you get to this page, paragraph 7, assignability, you're going to see you may assign this contract. Well, if that is checked, it means that I literally, as Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I have their house, I've got their contract, I check that box, and then I go, hey, Cheryl, you want to buy this house? It's worth like $220, and you can just give me $210. And you go, okay. So now I don't even have to come up with anything. And it's like I taught a class on how to rip people off. But anyway, this is to protect you guys. So you don't, if you see this box, may assign, be very leery because they're not literally coming up with any money whatsoever. So especially if you have a 30-day close, and especially if they say, well, we're going to have some other investors walk through your house. These are red flags in paragraph 7 on assignability. If that is checked, may assign. There's the one that says to be released from any further liability. That's where you're going to have to be scared. Now, if they may assign it because they have a family member and they're going to keep the liability, and they say, well, I want it in my name, but I might switch to Uncle Joe's name, then that's a different conversation. But if you have, they'll say, well, I'm an investor, and you know what I mean?
It's kind of the same thing, and I think that's a good keyword, but not released from liability.
Yeah. So that's where these classes are coming up, and they're trying to teach people how to basically go into your house and tell you, they tell you the lines of, oh yeah, you're going to get all this, blah, 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 and then they check that box, and I'm like, red flag, and that's why you need a realtor.
Right.
That's
and
why you need to call me.
Again, down at the bottom, it says, if neither box is checked,
then assume
then it's not assignable.
Right. Yeah.
That would be the
Yeah, so if you forget to check it, then you're not going to be able to assign it too. And unless you're working for an investor, usually you just say you're not going to assign it, Yeah. So we're going to take a quick 5-second break, and we'll be right back. But we're going to talk more about the contract and things to actually look for and to, keep everybody safe. So you guys hold tight. We'll be right back. Jessie Walters from Charles Rutenberg, and I'm here today with Cheryl Herny from Nightberry Title Solutions. I almost said services. Okay. Thanks for joining me, guys. And we're just going over the contract. They just changed it for the state of Florida, and we're just going through line by line to help us all understand it a little bit better. And we were we're at to where it's a cash transaction, and they took a line, like they took a pen. I don't know if actually we can throw it up there, and they just lined through all that. See that? So if you have cash, there's no financing contingency. That's it. There is a home inspection period. And of course, if your sellers can't get a clear title, that's in the contract too, to protect you. But so if it's cash and you say, well, it was cash, but my uncle was giving me the cash and he changed his mind, it doesn't make a difference now. There's no type of financing contingency. And I want to say that it felt like there was never... For me, I've never...
I don't know that it really...
ever had.
Yeah. No, you like said cash. It needs to be cash. I'm sorry you decided to take a loan out.
Yeah, so so where I have this credit line. So they say, is it a cash? Is it a cash?
That happens a lot.
Yeah, and you say, yeah, it's cash. And they go, okay. And then you talk to Mr. and Mrs. Johnson and you go, where are you getting the money from? And they go, from my house. I'm taking all the equity on my house. And then they go, well, it didn't get approved, so it can't go forward. Well, unfortunately... you should have disclosed that and just done it as a loan, not as cash.
It's taking longer than anticipated. They're still going through the process. It's just now past the closing date or very close to the closing date, and the HELOC or the home equity line of credit loan isn't done yet.
Yeah, and so the equity lines of credit used to be like 2 weeks, and I think it's almost like the old school realtors. We could say like, oh yeah, you get it really fast, but then in reality, all these, like we were saying,
everything's changed.
Everything's slower. So you might need more time. So if you're going to do that, maybe extend it out 45 days.
45 days and disclose that.
Contingent upon.
Right.
Yeah, so you could do the cash transaction part, and then you could literally turn to the comments or, the contingency section and put contingent upon, credit line against primary
buyer
residence.
getting the line of credit. And also, too, you have to remember that when you take a line of credit out on your primary home, you have those 3-day right of rescission.
Right.
So, we're closing tomorrow, but your money still isn't going to be available for another 4 days.
You know what it reminds me of? The 3-day, we're talking about the CDs and stuff, how you guys actually can absorb it is like when you go to, say, Rooms to Go, or you go to Kane's Furniture, or you go and they go, oh, we have we have this special financing. You want to take advantage of it? And you go, oh, it's all free. Of course I do. So you sign up for it, and then it has 3 days.
You have same thing. It's still, and I've noticed that when I got into the title business, I went to probably Rooms to Go up in Lakeland, and it had the whole 3-day right of rescission. Oh my God, why does it have this 3-day? How does it? Okay, but I know what it is.
So now it's like the same as our contracts, kind of like it's still 3-day. In a way, write a rescission, because you're not, if you don't sign that, you're not getting the loan, and you're probably losing your deposit, because now your loan's totally approved,
Yeah.
So we were talking about financing on paragraph 8B, brings many component changes. So it's saying tasks to be accomplished during the loan approval period, components of loan approval, appraisal includes valuations, alters notice related to loan approval and impact of note not giving notice, add sellers access to property related conditions. So have you seen anything
like
with
a lot of changes on the financing part of it.
Yeah. So that can get a little confusing. So basically, if you're on the end of it, if you, I feel like this covers people that have I always have the problem with, and not to pick on anybody, but it's like almost student loans. Like they forget they have student loans, or they think the lender doesn't really see they have student loans, and they have something that is underlying. They got a repo years ago, but they forgot to mention it, and then all of a sudden they're at the end of their loan, and there's a problem, and we're going to have to extend, but we don't know why, and you don't know why, but buyer might know why. And at that point, if you're out of the financing contingency part, you're going to lose your deposit. So there's no more playing games with the lender, really. You know what I mean? I know it sounds horrible, but
no,
kind of
right.
Yeah. So it's like when it. But and what are you seeing anything with that, or?
No, I have not yet. And again, this just went into effect November.
Yeah.
So we're kind of still fresh in this whole contract.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the financing part, make sure you're not, doing anything. This is the 8B. This is the part. This is the loan approval period, which is the most. I think this is the only confusing part to people about losing a deposit, because, and even on the appraisals too. There's a couple things now. So on this part, what do you think about paragraph 8B? On the loan, see when the red means that they added it to the contract.
Right.
So has that helped, or has that hindered you guys, or help, or is it just the same thing?
You know what? Because appraisals are taking so long, I haven't seen anything out of the ordinary, to be honest with you. Right now, things seem to be going status quo, if you may.
Yeah.
But it says appraisal or tentative valuation of the property, if either required by lender, sufficient to meet the terms.
Yeah, so you know what that is?
But it has to be within that loan approval period. So if we have 10 days, and And I don't know how quickly lenders are doing appraisals.
Yeah.
Do they do them that quick?
So depending on, like, I've had a couple that, so you know how it says appraisal or
Evaluation.
Yeah. So sometimes they call it like a desktop evaluation right now. And they'll say, so I had one, they put a substantial amount down. So the appraisal wasn't really needed. They put the loan amount they were getting on the house was a couple $100,000. The house is valued over $500,000.
Right. So they didn't bother doing it because they weren't borrowing.
Right. And so that covers them too, because literally there's no appraisal there.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a valuation of the property that's satisfactory to the lender, but there's not an appraisal done because they're putting so much down.
Right.
So I think that covers everybody on there. And then if you don't fill in the blank, it's going to give you 30 days for the loan approval period.
Which is plenty of time.
Yeah.
30 days, you know.
You
so
should know
have,
something's up.
Within 30 days,
Yeah.
you should have the appraisal.
Yeah.
And you should be approved by then at
Right.
that point. And
Yeah, and if
after
you're
that,
Yeah. And they're saying based on buyer's credit worthiness, so, and the average is 30-year, mortgage. That's pretty much what
Right.
most people write in
Yeah.
there. So if
Yeah.
that's blank, you're just going to assume 30-year mortgage. You can change that with your lender if they left it open and you want a 15-year mortgage, but most of the time people pick 30. And I haven't been seeing a lot of people fill in that prevailing rate either. Because you've seen some interest rates going up, right?
Oh my gosh, interest rates, yeah. I think, I haven't seen any 4s, but highest has been a 3.99.
Oh, wow.
That's like,
That's a lot.
that is actually big compared to what
Yeah.
we've been seeing.
So it's projected 3 increases. One was beginning of this year, in 6 months, and then one at the end of the year. So, but the one they projected, and they've been so sad because I'm not an analyst, but like they've been so wrong. So they
That's a good thing.
Yeah. So, but this year, I think the highest that they projected was like the 4s at the end of the year.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah. But if you're
going to
seeing
say
them,
7, I'd
if
be
you-
like, oh my God.
But if you're seeing them now, unless it's based on your credit.
Yeah, it has to do with credit. And I see a lot of people actually also paying points to lower that credit.
Yeah. So I have
the rate.
I had one the other day, and they said, well, my interest rate, this is the other day, December, my interest rate's like 3.15, and everybody's getting 2.9. How come I'm not? And I said, well, you have great, because I'm not a financial wizard,
Right.
but I'm like, well, let's figure this out. So I talked to him, and I'm like, oh, you can, now his whole plan was to pay off the mortgage within 5 years. So I said, so I'm not a financial wizard, but I can add up. So I was like, if you paid this many thousand in points, and if you take 2 or 3 point, a little bit higher, and you average them, I bet you your 3.2 is going to be cheaper in 5 years than your, couple thousand for these points. Yeah. So I'm like, do the math. And he was like, oh, you're right. So I was like,
and that's a lot of things. I think yesterday, and I did a closing. Unfortunately, he didn't know he paid points.
Oh no!
But he's like, I didn't know anything about that. But what he paid to lower his interest rate wasn't bad at all. He's going to make that money up fast.
Right. Yeah, and sometimes I think they do that. I mean, I don't know the lender who did that, but I think sometimes they don't. What's the word? I want to try to think of something else other than they don't tell the buyer.
Disclose.
They don't disclose, but they might, and you don't know because it's like Chinese.
That's another thing
language,
too. And I'm sure lenders tell them.
Yeah.
But the buyers are like.
Yeah, they're like,
out there, and they're just like, I don't know what you're talking about.
What color paint am I going to do? What flooring? What size was that room?
Moved on.
Yeah.
No, I told you. Remember?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We were discussing it at this, and this is when we talked about it. Oh,
yeah.
That's what you meant.
Yeah, because we can have 3.25 or we can have 2.9. Oh, I'll take the 2.9.
Right.
Okay. All right, next. Yeah, and then you're like, oh, 2.9 is great. Wait a minute, what's this extra? Because then they itemize it, and you're like, wait a minute, what's this $2,000?
Remember we talked about it?
On 30 years, that interest rate, you're going to save a lot of money because when they do that whole amortization, that $300,000, $400,000 home, you end up paying like $1.2 million for by the time 30 years
by the time 30 years is done.
Yeah. So that's a whole nother show compared like interest rate. But I was thinking about the interest rates because they said it was projected, like I said, 3 times this year. And so if you're, it's supposed to motivate
up some.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a little bit. But if you're starting to see 3 point, almost 4 already.
Yeah.
But of course, it's based on their credit score too.
Right. I mean, in an average, I don't know if that was average interest rate up to 4s or 4.25, whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, till the end of this year. So we'll see if they're right, because they also projected that it would only be 4% increase last year for the valuations of homes, and that was wrong. Yeah.
What was it?
It was, it started out with like 8%, and some places were 20%, depending on where you are in Florida. So, I mean, yeah.
That's way wrong.
Yeah. And you know what is funny? Because, well, it's not funny, but in 2005, 2006, through 2008, there was all those people that bought those homes, had those homes foreclosed because they didn't want to be upside down in those homes. And now those homes are worth like almost 3 times the valuation from then. So I gave a lot of people advice, because I mean, I like to sell homes, but I said, stay in your home. It's probably going to even out. It may take a couple of years.
Right.
Still cheaper than rent. And they, the ones that listened are like, oh my gosh, you're right. It's like 3 times. But the ones that didn't listen,
The ones are like,
yeah, we had to deal with the foreclosures, and we had to wait the 3 years, and we had, so then nightmare.
So now those houses are back up.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's equity.
I should have kept my house.
I know. Yeah, exactly. So paragraph 8B appraisal, we kind of talked about that, what alternative valuation is. And that's why some appraisers aren't going to require, or some lenders aren't going to require an appraisal.
If, like you said, we're just saying, $500,000 house, I only need to borrow $100,000. Obviously, you already have $400,000 in equity. Lender's like, you're good.
Yeah, exactly. So on 8BI, makes me sound really smart. On paragraph 8BI,
line 98, 101.
definition of character. No, definition of loan approval. That's defamation. Sorry. Buyer shall make application. So they cross out mortgage loan. Because it could be loan, I guess, because it could be a different type of loan. Or they're just saying any application for the financing.
Yeah, so just any type of application.
Yeah, so that kind of goes into we were talking about credit lines, stuff like that. Financing and appraisal terms.
And again, the whole appraisal, talking about appraisals or don't require appraisals and do a desktop review or whatever it is that they use.
Right. Yeah, so the loan approval, financing approved, satisfactory appraisal received by the lender, that's the change. And then the loan approval, which requires buyer to sell a property, will be considered loan approval. Okay, so that's when you do the house sale contingency. So you've got to sell your primary residence. That's going to basically cover them there too, because you're going to want to make application because you're selling your primary residence and stuff too.
And again, that loan approval period is back from that first few pages of the contract, those 30 days.
Yeah.
You have to have all that.
And on that 30 days too, they are counting weekends and stuff too. So as far as, because some people say, I don't think it counts the weekends, but I believe it does. 30.
And it never says whether it does or does not. I don't know if it's business days or is Saturday considered.
Yeah, because I think it says on the escrow deposits, they're not going to include the Sunday on the weekends and stuff, but I guess we could get clarification on that, make sure it didn't change at all. So if you have 3 days to put an escrow in, it's Sunday, and the next day is Martin Luther King Day, do you have an additional 3 days, or are those included in your 3 days? I just say get it in 3 days. You know what I mean? No matter what.
Yes.
Get it to Cheryl.
And you were saying about the contingency for the buyer to sell. The loan approval, which requires for the borrower to sell their property, shall not be considered part of the loan approval process. So if they're approved
based on their house sale
based on their loan, this is loan approval, which requires
no, I'm saying the opposite. I agree.
To sell other properties shall not be considered.
So you can't say, well, my house isn't going through.
Exactly.
Yeah, that wasn't part of the deal. But then also, if you write your house sale contingency and then add an addendum house sale contingency form, you're going to have to either cross through this on your own contract or put that in the
But it even says there's a rider 5.
Right, that's the house sale.
Okay, so that's the
house sale contingency. To the sale of primary property, and it's going to have the address in there. And then if you guys take a house sale contingency, you want to see, is it for sale? Is there MLS number? Is it under contract? Oh, have they gone through home inspection? Have they had appraisal?
Yeah. Where are they in that home contingency period?
Yeah, ask those questions, because I think new realtors are like, well, it's concealed. Their house is, they said their house is worth this much. Well, it doesn't matter. Like, you got to have all that in place, because sometimes they think their house is worth 500 and it's worth 450, and it's for sale and it's been on the market 60 days. Why is it for sale that long? And so if it's for sale and it's not under contract, and you're going to sit here and wait for them for 30 days, you have different problems.
Usually, though, most lenders, if you have a house, they're using that income of selling that house, because not a lot of people, not too many, can afford to keep this mortgage on a $500,000 house and go purchase another $500,000 house. Your mortgages are $3,000 to $4,000 a month.
Right.
You have some deep pockets, and you're out there.
Yeah. I know. I just had one, and I was like, I had to verify their job. I had to verify their, they're going to put this much money down. And you're used to, as a real estate agent, you're like, oh, it's a cash transaction. I need proof of funds. Well, if you're getting a big deposit down on a mortgage, where's your proof of funds? You know what I mean?
Right.
So you want to see that too, because sometimes they're going to sell some fancy footwork, and you need to know what's going on, because your seller is going to kill you. You know what I mean? Your seller's the one who's going to be upset that you didn't check that. So make sure you always get proof of funds, And
it says down at that bottom, disclosure is key. That is what's going to protect you and your buyer. Yeah,
and if you're disclosing something, don't do it via text message. Make sure, we haven't got to home inspection periods and stuff. If there's a problem during the home inspection period, don't just rely on a text message. Or I called them and had a chat, and it's logged in on my. You know what I mean?
Right.
You want to put everything in writing all the time. So if you have looks like this home inspection, we have a couple issues, I'll be sending them to you tomorrow. Looks like this is the home inspection. I've attached it. These are our issues. Don't text them and say, I'll send you the email. You can text them as well, but always cover yourself as a realtor, just that paper trail. Because when people get upset, they want to see you did your job, and it's just, part of.
And if something happens, you want to say, nope, look, here's all my emails.
Yeah.
Texts tend to disappear when their phones are updated.
Yeah, and another thing, because we were talking about the on contracts and stuff like that, but we'll take a quick break, but I want to talk to you guys just about one more thing, how to cover yourself. So you guys sit tight. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm Jessie Walters with Charles Rutenberg, and Cheryl Herny's here today from Nightberry Title Solutions. Thanks for joining me.
You're welcome.
So we're talking about the contracts, and so we're probably going to have another show on this, because we're only literally through with half of it. But I just want you guys to know, we were just talking about ways to cover yourself, and I know we go off a subject, but if you're a buyer putting in offers, I've had a couple buyers who are they're not insecure, but they just want to make sure that they're did you submit it? Did they come back? Because there's so many, if you don't get it,
there's a lot of people out there that want that contract.
Yeah, and they want
that house.
And they say, well, did they respond? Did they? And so, we were talking about, don't just text, don't, email. Another way to help your buyer feel, secure with you as a realtor is not to give them the seller's agent information, but to kind of expand it up, and then they can see that I always write contract attached, or contract in capital letters on the email, and you can screenshot that and send it to your buyer. Look, on this date at this time, is it in a timely manner, is it timely fashion? Because sometimes your buyers think, well, because realtors are spazoids, we're always running. Did you actually put the offer in? You know what I mean? They know I did, but what time was it? So you can screenshot that, send it to your buyers. Again, don't send them the seller's agent's information, because some if they get fired up, they could call. You know what I mean? Them
I
too.
had
You're like,
an email. Sometimes we tend to reply all when we really shouldn't reply all, and all the buyers and sellers and agents information is on there for the buyers and the sellers directly.
Yeah.
And I had an agent say, now now your buyers have my seller's contact information, and they shouldn't be in touch with each other. And you apologize. I'm so sorry. And
well, because you have so many clients and stuff. Sometimes it's like one of those, because it'll CC, and then the loan people do it too. So you're kind of like, oh, my loan's approved. I'll forward that, not knowing your CC.
Everybody's in there.
Yeah, the CC's on there with the title company. The CC's on there with your buyer. And you just forwarded that to your
and I don't know what all the other emails say.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I can just call your buyer up now and email them. Hey, did you get this? Not, so
well, not pretty.
Yeah. So if that happens, we're all human,
Of course.
And I have like home inspections, and then they'll go, oh, someone left the back door open. Home inspector left the back door open, and I'll show a house, and someone will leave a side door open, and I'll say, hey, we got to shut this, and I'll go lock it. Then they'll go open it, and I'll go lock it. Then they'll go open it, and then the agent will call me, and they say, hey, your home inspector and this buyer, after I left the door open, and I'm like, you're kidding me. I already, for some reason, I don't know why they do that, but they do that. But like the last thing I do is call my buyer and go, listen, you left the door open, because like they're trying to buy a house, they're under contract. The seller's mad that you left the door open. I do mention it to the home inspector, but my buyer is the first time they've done this, or it's the second time they've done this in 10 years. You know what I mean? And so like when we get busy, we mess things up. We're only human.
Of course.
So it's like one of those.
Multitask too much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm the queen of multitask. It's like that's why I say it's good. I'm ADD. But anyway, back to the contract. So, I mean, if you're going to mess this up, some people are going to mess this up too, but the best thing is to be educated, to find out as much as you can on this stuff. That way, at least you can see, am I in the timeline? Did I forget about this? So on this one, paragraph AB2, seller must make written requests for buyer updates, and that's what we're talking about. So
yes,
so you literally, even though you shared their emails, that's something that we have to do in writing now. We have to request this, so it's probably better that they all saw it in writing.
On written request. Well, but the seller can make upon written request. I want to know the process of the loan,
right?
To the buyer, and the buyer needs to disclose. And not only does I don't know that the buyer needs to directly communicate with the seller, but it gives the lender an okay, it gives the agents an okay, it gives the closing agent, the title company an okay to say, hey, can you give me an update? Absolutely, I guess.
Yeah, and so believe it or not, so when I guess basically years prior, we would call and say, hi, I'm the selling agent and your buyer, blah, blah, blah. I'd like to get a status. And they'd say, I'm sorry, we don't give you this information.
Right.
So this paragraph right here is like a savior, because it's like we can actually say, well, they emailed us, and you can actually sound really smart and go, paragraph AB-2, upon written request, which we would like to get status of loan approval. And then they have to tell you, where before they would say, it's inappropriate for you to call. And it's, Patriot Act, we're not allowed to disclose this information, and we're not going to be disclosing this information. Call your buyer's agent, and they will update you. And then the buyer's agent's like, well, I'm not allowed to call.
I know.
So this helps us all.
Right.
So if you have buyers who are, you're not going to find out their credit score. You're not trying to find, you're just trying to find out
personal
information.
Personal information.
Yeah, you're just getting a status update, so you're good.
On that property, just, disclose, and not disclose, but just make sure if you want, the realtors want updates and want to be kept informed. Have the seller put it in writing that they want to be informed.
Yeah, and a lot of I've noticed a lot of the mortgage companies are actually updating the like the last one I did, the sellers. I was seller's agent. They're updating me Friday updates. I'm included, CC'd in there, per this new contract, so which is nice. And then if you have not to plug Dylan from the mortgage firm, but she does update you every week, and she'll give you the status updates, tell you exactly where they are, loan approval, process and stuff, which is really super.
I think that's really great that the lenders are able to provide that, because I think most buyers are kept in the dark and they get angry because they don't know where the loan process is. What's going on? I'm not being told anything. Nobody communicates. So I think that's great.
Yeah, and if you're an agent watching this, usually on a Friday, I try to give everybody an update on where, hey, hold tight. Hey, get to packing. Hey, home inspections Monday. Hey, just so that they all know kind of where they are, because they literally feel like I'm under contract. I'm closing in 20 days. I haven't heard from anybody. I think it's okay. And so you just want to confirm and make them feel good that everything is going forward, especially if they're living and in the home and it's their primary residence.
Right.
If it's an empty house, you can be a little slack.
Right.
Yeah. But if they're moving and packing
Seller
boxes.
occupied. Yeah, they need to know.
Yeah.
Am I moving out tomorrow or do I have another week?
Yeah, exactly. And then they always call and they go, well, how nice do I have to make this? And I say, well, I'll leave it as if you were moving into it.
Exactly. That's a good thing to say.
Yeah.
Well, if you move
and they
in,
go, oh,
how
no.
would you?
I'm just kidding. No, my customers are great. Yeah, they go, okay, no problem, Jessie. I'll make sure it's immaculate. And I'm like, that's just what I want to hear.
Eat off the floor.
Yeah. If I can't eat off the floor, then I'm not selling it. But yeah, so then on paragraph 8B3, so that one, if you're out of your loan, the period, the time frame, then we're going to assume it's good. Basically, kind of summing that up, right? Layman's terms.
If it's in those 30 days and they really haven't heard from you, as we were just talking about.
Yeah. So you don't have an approval. We haven't been able to talk to your lender, but you're going to go forward. So this right here it should be in red on your contract, but it's not. But this whole thing right here is saying you're about to lose your deposit if you're not sure.
Right.
To me, like.
Kind of Russian roulette right here.
Yeah. So if you're good with your, you think everything is good. Yeah.
If you're comfortable that
buyer
you're not
is
yet
satisfied.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you're comfortable, oh, I know I'm going to get it. It's just taking a little longer.
Yeah.
I have no problems. We can move forward.
Right.
You've pretty much forfeited your earnest money deposit.
Yeah. If it doesn't, so and the buyer is the one that the lender is telling, updating and saying, hey, you know what? We just need this one bank account statement and you're good to go. We got the appraisal back. Everything's good. Just send us that over. We know you're good. It's 100%, which I usually don't say, or it's 98%. And then you go, okay, I'm going to go past that approval period. Otherwise, if you're like, well, they just asked me, how many years I had that student loan out for and what that bank foreclosure was.
And you're
6 years
day
ago.
25.
Yeah, you might start to get nervous and be writing the letter to cancel and get your deposit back.
Yeah.
Unless you got cash somewhere hidden and you got that back.
Yeah, unless you need to put down more cash or sometimes even the seller will give us another 500,000 non-refundable.
Or 5,000, yeah. I'll take 500,000.
That's a lot of money. Yeah, 5,000 non-refundable.
Yeah,
will extend.
Right, exactly.
What that non-refundable? Just make sure that you understand what that means.
Means someone's going shopping.
You're not getting that money.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we got the next one. If terminating a contract, if buyer can't timely meet terms of loan approval, so it's saying that's the part that we're just talking about there. So if your buyer would lose deposit if buyer had no ability to meet the conditions of the loan approval. So if it's getting shaky and you think maybe they forgot about your foreclosure or they forgot about your $50,000 student loan, and you just ran out and bought a brand new $2,000 TV, you might want to cancel it here. Best thing is to be modest, and again, like we were saying, disclose as real estate agents and title agents. As a buyer, you want to disclose to your lender, make sure they know everything. Because if it gets to this point and you're actually reading this paragraph, then there's a problem. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, if you're shaky.
Right.
Yeah, and if you don't have that.
And the seller's already tied up 25 to 30 days on this contract.
Yeah.
So they're ready to close, and so the last thing they want to hear is like, we have to cancel the contract.
Right, exactly.
So.
And two, in this market that they just had 7 other offers.
Right.
At least. And so they're like, why didn't we go with this one? Are they still there? And that's time, if it's getting shaky, that's the time where you kind of get in your agent's ear and you say, hey, can you talk to that backup contract and just say we're having a little problem? Or can you, are all those people that put the offers in, are anybody still on the hook,
Chances are probably.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of houses out there.
For sale, yeah. There's not a lot for sale. It's crazy how many. And it's totally, again, off subject, but.
That's okay.
It's like watching the news. They're like, well, the housing market is starting to level out. I'm like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I just beat out 17 offers.
I know. It's like, are you hiding under a rock?
Yeah.
Where have you been the last year?
And then 17 offers on the one that I just sold in Spring Hill, and the one that I have under contract last week. We beat out four offers, and it was a townhouse, a very conservative home and stuff. But it's like, so there's still offers coming in, like it's not the norm where you just have the one you're trying to go back and forth with them. There's still, in these home inspection periods, in these loan approval periods, and all this stuff. That is what your seller is thinking. What happened to all the other people? If you're having a problem with them, you know what I mean?
Let's go on next.
Yeah, that's what so they don't have the patience and the love for the buyers like they used to. They're like, well, this isn't going well. Call up those other people, get rid of these people. Right. And you're like, well, they are still nice people.
Whereas before, there was that one contract. Let's see how we can make this contract work. Get this house
Let's extend it out. We would extend out for 3 months for to help Mr. and Mrs. Smith get that house, whereas, they needed a proof of employment. They were only at that job. It was the same line of work, but they needed 2 paychecks. Paychecks only come every 2 weeks. We got to wait another 2 weeks.
Right.
Like, what?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. What? Now, before they'd say, okay, 2 weeks, can they help me with my electric or something like that, But now they're like, 2 weeks, call, Mr. and Mrs. Jones up. They wanted it. We can, and I'm like, well, we're going to have to wait another 30 days for Mr. and Mrs. Jones. So it might be worth waiting 2 weeks, but that's again up to your agent, and you have to weigh out everything,
On your houses and your listings, and you have, 10 contracts, are you still seeing the sellers kind of shy away from FHA?
Yeah, still. And that's sad. Yeah. And I've seen some agents add FHA to some of the properties though. Like we'll take it.
FHA is acceptable.
Yeah. And I can't say who, but there's some big buyers, investors, and it'll say this period for cash and conventional, and then we'll take FHA after this day. And a lot of times it's because FHA, if you're a flipper, you have to own the property for so long, and you can't offer FHA. So they have to wait. So sometimes it's because of that. But I've seen that.
I see. So investors who flip the house first want either cash or straight up financing. And
they'll say after, so I just saw one.
After their 30-day christening period.
After February 16th, we can take FHA. So I've seen them offering more, but I see FHA more on, so Zillow is buying and selling houses, Open Door is buying and selling houses. On those lenders, they'll take the FHA because they just look at the bottom line. And it's more like it's a corporation, you know what I mean? So, but on the actual seller itself is an individual. They always have a friend who's had some nightmare story. I don't know.
Of course.
Yeah. They say, I don't want to take that FHA. When they say that FHA, I go, oh no, why not?
I know.
Yeah.
And I think FHA has changed some as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not as stringent.
I'm not a loan officer, and I don't know. In what ways.
Well, it's not as
is it strict guidelines? I guess I don't know.
It is strict, but it's not as bad, because I think a lot of times they would say there's wood rot and it's not going to go FHA. Well, if they make the lists on it, you do still have to go back out and get another FHA appraisal, and the buyer's got to repay for that, and it's a time thing. So you have to be more patient, I think, with FHA sometimes. But sometimes the houses are good to go, and I can walk through and go, you're good, So it's not as bad as it,
You can kind of forewarn before you list it and lose all this time.
Yeah.
Go ahead and fix this, fix that, or whatever.
So they like the conventional mortgages because they were always 20% down, and FHA was 3.5% down. So as a seller, you'd see, wow, I'm selling this house for $300,000 and they're putting $60,000 down. Wow, they're really good. Or I'm seeing this house for $300,000, they're putting 3.5%. So they're putting like 10 or 11.5 or whatever. And you're like, well, 60,000 down, 11,500. Which one would you take?
Go to 60.
Yeah, I'm going to go to 60. Well, now they have conventional mortgages for 5%. So now, so you got, you know what I mean? So it's like the same. So it's 5%. They're putting, 25,000 down, and then they're putting. So it kind of it's evening it out a little bit. But it's still, they still say cash is king, conventional is second place, and then FHA and VA. So that's why I say if you're a veteran, write that letter, because a lot of people will give you a chance on, you know what I mean? Write that letter, and you can't put too much information in, because there's been lawsuits with those letters, but you can write the letter of, I love your house. That's why I say just keep it general. I love your house, and put the address in so it doesn't sound like you send everybody this love letter. I love your house, and your house, and your house. But like, I love your house at, 4752 Fort Pierce Court or whatever. And it's just beautiful. And I think it just make a home for me and my family, after I've served our country, something like that. But if you start putting in all your different children and stuff like that, they say that it could be prejudice and stuff. Now, I don't know. Everybody sues everybody for everything. I don't know. But if you keep
of course,
I call them the love letters. You keep your love letters simple and how much you love their house. And if there's something special that you like, then you actually, can narrow it down and put it.
You were talking
special.
about Open Door and all those other companies. Forgot all the other ones. I don't see as much anymore of that because obviously we all know they're drying out there, the houses, but I don't see hardly any of that stuff anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I could do, because we were running out of time, but I could do a whole nother show on that. So they're buying them under the one, I don't want to badmouth anybody, but one is buying them under a name, another name. And then I don't see Zillow, what they're buying, as hardly, they're really slowed down. I think that's in the news and stuff. But there's a couple of them that are buying under, they've changed the front man's name so it looks more personable. Yeah, so they are still buying, but and you look at them, so when you click on the seller, you can see who it is. So I'm like, don't be sneaky with me. I can find out. But yeah. So
there's a lot of ways to find a lot of things out.
Yeah.
I'm a realtor.
Yeah.
I'm a closing person. A title company. I can find out a lot of things.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. So thank you so much for joining us today, Nightberry Title Solutions. Cheryl, Herny, always the best. If you guys need anything, buying or selling, I'm here to help too. Call me or inbox me or email me. Be glad to help. You guys have a great day.